Look at these guys. Well, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are kicking off an exciting project. We are going to be transforming this raised garden bed into a salsa garden. And that means we'll be growing everything from fresh tomatoes to spicy peppers and tons of flavorful herbs, all homegrown and ready for the best homemade salsa. But first things first, we do have some cleanup to do, and this bed has a lot of old spent plants. And so before we can plant anything, we need to clear out all the old plants and refresh the soil. So let's get to work. For those of you who have been following along, you might remember when we built this raised garden bed with an overhead trellis last year. And if you happen to miss this video, be sure to check it out. We planted tomatoes and green and purple basil and just sat back and watched everything mature and grow like crazy. And by the end of the season, this bed was bursting with life. We had basil coming out of our ears, and the tomato plant nearly reached the top of the trellis. And of course, my mistake was not pruning back nearly often enough, but it wasn't bad for our first run. So we were able to harvest some tomatoes, even though they were green at first. I placed them in a paper sack with a yellow banana for about 2 to 3 weeks, and just look at the outcome. Red, juicy tomatoes, voila, and one deflated banana. But this trick works every single time. Fast forward to now, and as you can see, it is time for a reset. Some plants have finished their cycle and it's just looking a little sad. So let's clean it up and get it prepped for our new salsa garden. All right, so we were able to clear out all of our dead plants, and we trimmed up our lone tomato plant here, so it is looking much, much better. And then we also have a vinca plant that I'm actually going to leave here, even though it's totally not even part of the salsa garden. It's just vincas are just so beautiful to look at, and they also are a great summer plant here in Arizona. Vinca plants are actually really hardy for the summer heat. They do really well here, and I highly recommend them for your summer gardens. All right, so we are back from the garden center and we got all of our plants ready to go. I am super excited, so I'll be showing you what plants we were able to pick up and also all of the materials that I'm using for our soil amendment. So that way you can kind of see how I turn over my soil after every season, just to give everything a boost nutrient-wise. We just want to make sure that we're giving them the best head start possible. So to start things off, I'm going to show you what plants I picked up. Now, forgive me, I couldn't resist. We did get a hot banana pepper. I love those. They don't really use them in salsa gardens, but I'm going to be pickling those, and so I know I'll get good use out of that. And then for the salsa garden, I got some Fresno hot pepper chilies. We got ourselves a Serrano hot pepper chili. This is a San Marzano heirloom tomato variety. It's kind of falling over there, but we're going to be planting this pretty deep. So, and then Over here, we have ourselves some cilantro, a jalapeno plant. This is actually a mammoth jalapeno. And then I was able to find they had big beef tomatoes, which are actually really great for our summer heat. And then I had got some Texas sweet onions, which also do really well in our climate. And then this guy is actually our cherry tomato plant that we were able to transplant over from the other raised garden bed earlier this year. And if you happen to miss this video, be sure to check it out. All right, so before we start, I'm gonna be kind of walking you through all of the stuff that I'm gonna be using to amend my soil. I do this pretty much after every season. So let's start with, I am gonna be using some earthworm castings. And earthworm castings are actually really good for the soil because they provide a lot of essential nutrients, and they're also gonna provide a lot of those beneficial microbes as well. And then we're gonna be using some bone meal and blood meal. The bone meal is great for calcium and phosphorus, and the blood meal is going to be really good for providing the nitrogen that they're going to need for their leaves and all that. So this is more for like the foundation of the plant. This is more for the foliage. And then we have our mushroom compost. I always use that with a little bit of garden tone in our raised bed potting mix. And then after I get the plants in, I'll be topping everything with a little bit of grow mulch as well, just to help retain moisture. Okay, so before I start, I'm going to be using my twine here. We're going to be tying this guy up in hopes that we can get him to grow more vertically. And I'm going to just have to be more diligent about keeping on top of the growth of these plants because they do bush out quite a bit. For this part of the project, I'm using the Vigoro Soft Garden twine, and I'm just doing my best to kind of help upright the plant, and this gives me a lot of advantage because I feel like I can see the branches, the growth, what needs to be trimmed back, and when. So now we're going to be amending our soil with all of our nutrients that we selected. Also wanted to mention I had a bell pepper plant. I'm pretty sure that's what that is from last season. Somehow it pulled through. Kind of looking a little sad. I'm going to leave it for now and just kind of see what happens. Again, with gardening, it's a lot of experimental process, and you just kind of gauge and play around. That's part of the fun, I feel. And now for the best part is the planting process. So we'll be spacing these out, kind of deciding where exactly we are going to be placing these in order for them to thrive and be able to mature with enough room. I always say it's just smart to be able to plan that out, look at the tags, make sure you know approximately how tall they're going to grow as well as how wide, because there's nothing worse than an overcrowded area. You want to give them room to grow, and obviously they're not going to stay this size for very long, at least if we did everything right anyways. So I'll be kind of deciding where those planting placements will be, and then we'll get to it. All right, so we've got our drip system going. The last step is to put in our grow mulch, and so we'll be applying that to our top layer, and that will help to insulate everything. But these plants are in. And then one of the other things I wanted to mention to you guys that I am going to be trimming off for these littler tomato plants that have the blossoms, we'll be actually pinching those off to focus the energy towards plant growth. So we don't want it to fruit just yet. We want it to focus all that energy on growing nice and big and strong. All right, well, the bed is cleared, the soil is refreshed, and we've got our salsa garden planted and ready to go. I cannot wait to see this space transform over the next few months. And of course, once everything starts producing, we'll be making some fresh homemade salsa with all of our fresh ingredients. So definitely stay tuned for that. Now, while we've been working on this, we've also been making some big changes in the garden, and one of which is designing a special raised bed just for our strawberries. I've been wanting to give them their own space so we can grow them the best way possible. And in order to make room for our new strawberry setup, we actually decided to move one of our raised garden beds, and that meant taking out all the soil. And while doing that, I actually found something really unexpected. Onions. I totally had forgotten I had planted some in that bed a while back, and since they had already started growing, I just decided to move them over to our salsa garden bed to hopefully give us a head start on our onions for our future salsas. So a little bonus addition to our salsa garden. Can't complain about that. And next up, we'll be setting up that special strawberry garden bed. So if you love seeing garden projects like this, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss it. I hope I'll see you again on the next one. Bye.